Have you ever felt a weight in your chest that no one else seems to notice? A quiet tension that follows you everywhere, even into the moments that should feel safe? That tightness, that unease, is your soul speaking to you. It's a whisper that says something isn't right, something is draining you, and yet you convince yourself it's just life being hard, just people being flawed, just the way things are. But what if it's more than that? What if it's the subtle, invisible chains of relationships that no longer serve you, that quietly rob you of your energy, your peace, and even your identity? Most people fear the idea of ending relationships, especially with those we call family or lifelong friends. The fear is real, fear of guilt, fear of loneliness, fear of judgment. But staying trapped in a relationship that harms you is far more dangerous than the discomfort of letting go. Your emotional and mental health are priceless. You deserve to exist in spaces where you are valued, seen, and supported. And here is the truth that most never dare to confront. Not every relationship is sacred, and not every connection is meant to last forever. Holding on to toxic bonds is like carrying invisible weights in a backpack that grows heavier with every passing day. You feel exhausted, anxious, and trapped, but the weight is not yours to bear. Imagine waking up and feeling free, lighter, unburdened by the endless demands, criticisms, and negativity of someone who diminishes you. Imagine a life where your energy is spent nurturing growth, love, and joy rather than repairing wounds that never heal. That is the promise, the reward, and the reason to watch this journey all the way to the end, to learn the signs that whisper to you in the silence, the signs that tell you it's time to step away, even from those you were told you must never leave. This is not about anger or revenge. This is about courage, clarity, and self-respect. It's about choosing yourself, not in selfishness, but in wisdom. It's about understanding that ending a relationship can open doors to unimaginable growth, deeper connections, and a life that feels real, alive, and worth every heartbeat. By staying with me, you will uncover truths that will empower you to see clearly, to feel without fear, and to act with conviction. You will discover the hidden patterns, the emotional red flags, and the silent damages that keep you small. You will find the strength to reclaim your energy, your time, and your peace. And above all, you will learn that love, real love, never suffocates, never diminishes, and never asks you to lose yourself. So take a deep breath, listen closely, open your heart and mind, because what comes next will challenge everything you've believed about loyalty, obligation, and connection. It will guide you, gently but firmly, toward the most liberating decision you may ever make, to finally courageously end what no longer serves you, and in doing so, step fully into the life you were meant to live. Have you noticed how some people leave you feeling small, even when you try your hardest to shine? They dismiss your dreams, belittle your achievements, or brush off your feelings as if they don't matter. At first, you may convince yourself it's just their personality, that everyone has flaws, that love means tolerating discomfort. But there is a deeper truth that can no longer be ignored. When someone consistently erodes your sense of self, it's not love. It's a drain. It's a quiet theft of your confidence, your courage, and your joy. Your mind begins to tighten around self-doubt. Your heart learns to hold back. You start shrinking to fit a space that was never meant for you. And yet, many accept this as normal, as the cost of connection, because leaving feels impossible. But what if I told you that you have every right to protect your spirit, that stepping away is not betrayal, but an act of profound self-respect? Every relationship that constantly leaves you depleted is a signal, a red flag that your emotional boundaries are being ignored. When someone refuses to honor your feelings, your opinions, and your needs, they are not your partner in life. They are an obstacle to your growth. Imagine the freedom that comes when you stop bending to fit someone else's agenda, when you no longer tolerate constant criticism disguised as care. Picture yourself surrounded by energy that lifts you, connections that celebrate your victories, and spaces where your voice is heard and cherished. That is not a dream. That is your potential reality once you begin to recognize the relationships that dim your light. Your life is not meant to be lived in fear of confrontation or in quiet suffering to protect someone else's comfort. True love and respect never demand that you shrink. True loyalty never asks you to compromise your values or sacrifice your mental peace. Recognizing the signs of harm is not weakness, it is clarity. and clarity gives you power. Power to make decisions that honor your worth, to step into life fully armed with courage, to create space for relationships that nourish rather than deplete. Imagine walking away from the people who drain you, not in anger, but in calm, unwavering understanding that you are choosing life, energy, and peace over toxic habit and obligation. Every moment spent in harmful connection is a moment stolen from your potential, your happiness, your freedom. And yet, the thought of cutting ties can feel terrifying. You may fear being alone, being judged, or losing what feels familiar. But the truth is, staying trapped is far scarier than letting go. Freedom, self-respect, and authentic love await those who are brave enough to step past fear. Your heart deserves relationships that amplify your strength, that echo your value, that challenge you to grow without tearing you apart. The more you honor this truth, the more you will see the patterns, the more you will recognize the people who are silently holding you back. And in that recognition lies the most transformative power of all, the power to choose yourself, finally and fully, without apology, without hesitation, and with unwavering courage. Have you ever noticed how some people make you question your own reality? They twist your words, deny your experiences, and make you feel like you are too sensitive, too emotional, too much. This is not a sign of love or care. It is manipulation, a quiet but relentless erosion of your sense of truth. When someone consistently makes you doubt yourself, it seeps into every corner of your life. Your confidence falters, your decisions feel uncertain, and you begin to second-guess even your most basic instincts. And yet, you stay because leaving seems like a betrayal, as if surviving in their shadow is the price of loyalty. But the human spirit was never meant to live under someone else's shadow. You were created to walk in the light of your own strength, to honor your instincts, and to cultivate relationships that mirror respect, trust, and authenticity. Every moment you spend with someone who undermines your reality chips away at your inner power. You may not see it at first, but the emotional drain is real, and over time, it becomes unbearable. You begin to shrink, to mute your voice, to censor your dreams, simply to avoid conflict, simply to survive. And this quiet surrender is far more dangerous than confrontation. Recognizing the signs of emotional manipulation is the first step toward reclaiming your life. When you acknowledge that your feelings are valid, your perspective matters, and your peace is non-negotiable, you take back the power that was quietly stolen from you. Imagine a life where you no longer tiptoe around someone else's moods, where your choices are yours alone, where your inner compass guides you without distortion. Imagine waking up each day free from the constant second-guessing, free from walking on eggshells, free from the fear that your truth is never enough. That freedom is not a fantasy. It is a possibility that begins the moment you decide that no one has the right to make you question your reality. True connection does not warp your sense of self, it elevates it. True respect does not silence your voice, it amplifies it. Every person who consistently makes you feel wrong, inferior, or unworthy is a sign that it is time to reevaluate, to draw boundaries, and, if necessary, to step away. Courage is required, yes, but the reward is immeasurable, a life filled with clarity, strength, and authenticity. Your energy, your mental space, and your emotional well-being are precious resources. Each moment spent in a relationship that erodes these resources is a moment lost from the life you were meant to lead. And the truth is, letting go is not weakness. It is the ultimate act of self-respect. It is the acknowledgement that your life has value, that your peace is sacred, and that your heart deserves to thrive, not merely survive. When you recognize this, when you embrace this, you open the door to a reality where relationships empower you rather than diminish you. You give yourself permission to be whole, to be seen, and to be unapologetically true. And that, more than anything, is the gift you can offer yourself, the freedom to exist fully, courageously, and without compromise. Have you ever felt like you were giving your all, pouring your heart, time, and energy into someone only to receive indifference, criticism, or emptiness in return? That feeling is not a reflection of your worth, it is a reflection of the imbalance in the relationship. Healthy connections are reciprocal. They lift you up, they nourish your spirit, they celebrate your presence. When a relationship constantly takes without giving, it is not love, it is a drain. And over time, that imbalance begins to shape who you are. You start to measure your value by someone else's approval. You start to bend, to compromise, to shrink, believing that this is the price of keeping peace. But peace built on sacrifice and neglect is not peace at all. It is tension disguised as normalcy, stress dressed as obligation, and exhaustion masquerading as love. Your body feels it in fatigue. Your mind feels it in constant doubt. Your heart feels it in the hollow ache of unmet needs. This is your soul speaking, trying to tell you that something is fundamentally wrong. Ignoring it does not make it go away. It allows the damage to grow. And yet, the fear of leaving can be paralyzing. Fear of judgment, fear of loneliness, fear of being seen as ungrateful or harsh can hold you in chains far heavier than any physical bond. But consider this. Every moment spent in a one-sided relationship is a moment stolen from your growth, your joy, and your freedom. Every second invested in someone who does not value you is a second you could be spending building a life that truly matters. A life where your energy multiplies instead of diminishes. Recognizing the signs of imbalance is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of courage. It is acknowledging that your time, energy, and heart are finite and sacred. It is understanding that relationships are meant to empower, not deplete. Imagine the liberation that comes when you stop overextending, when you stop apologizing for wanting respect, for wanting consistency, for wanting reciprocity. Imagine being surrounded by people who match your effort, who mirror your love, who honor your presence with gratitude and care. That is not a dream. It is a reality waiting for you when you refuse to settle for less than what you deserve. Strength begins when you recognize that imbalance is not love, and that choosing to leave does not make you cruel but awake. Choosing to leave is an act of self-preservation, of self-respect, of prioritizing your emotional well-being. Each time you set a boundary, each time you refuse to accept less than you deserve, you reclaim a piece of yourself that was quietly eroded. And the more you reclaim, the stronger, brighter, and freer you become. You begin to see clearly who deserves your presence and who does not. You begin to walk with confidence, no longer weighed down by invisible debts of approval. Your life begins to expand in ways that were impossible while you were tethered to imbalance. And when you embrace this truth, when you act with courage and clarity, you are not just freeing yourself. You are opening the door for relationships that are real, reciprocal, and transformative, for connections that lift rather than drain, for love that is mutual, empowering, and sustaining. Have you ever felt invisible in the presence of someone who is supposed to care about you? Like your thoughts, your dreams, and even your very existence are easily dismissed, brushed aside as unimportant or trivial? That feeling is not accidental, and it is not a flaw in you. It is a signal, a stark warning that the relationship is damaging your spirit. No one has the right to make you feel unseen, unheard, or unvalued. Yet many accept it because they fear conflict, rejection, or being alone. But living in invisibility is not survival. It is slow erosion. Each ignored feeling, each dismissed opinion, each overlooked contribution chips away at your confidence, at your sense of worth, and at your ability to fully show up in life. Your energy begins to waver, your mind constantly questions, and your heart grows guarded. You may think that enduring this is loyalty or love, but it is the opposite. True love and true connection illuminate you. They validate you. They do not silence you. They do not diminish your presence to suit their comfort. When someone persistently makes you feel invisible, they are not your ally. They are a barrier to your growth, a thief of your potential, a drain on the energy you were meant to devote to the world and to yourself. Imagine the relief, the lightness that comes when you no longer tolerate being invisible. Imagine being in spaces where your voice matters, where your feelings are acknowledged, where your presence is celebrated. That relief is not a distant dream. It is attainable the moment you recognize that invisibility is unacceptable and that you deserve better. Your life has immense value, and your heart, mind, and spirit deserve to be nurtured, not neglected. Breaking away from those who consistently diminish you is not cruelty. It is wisdom. It is an acknowledgement that your time, energy, and well-being are sacred. It is a conscious choice to step into a life where your existence is honored rather than ignored. The courage to leave begins with seeing clearly, with trusting your instincts, and with refusing to settle for the quiet erosion of your worth. Every boundary you set, every distance you create from those who diminish you, strengthens your inner resilience and restores your sense of self. You begin to walk taller, breathe deeper, and embrace a life that resonates with authenticity, respect, and empowerment. And as you step into that reality, the relationships that remain are not burdens. They are allies, mirrors of your strength, and sources of mutual respect. They reflect your value and reinforce the truth that you were never meant to shrink for anyone's comfort. You are meant to stand fully in your light, to claim your space, and to surround yourself with those who see you, honor you, and elevate you. Every step toward leaving invisibility behind is a step toward freedom, toward clarity, toward a life filled with connection that nourishes rather than depletes. And in that freedom, you will discover something remarkable. The world responds to the courage of those who honor themselves, and your life becomes a testament to the strength, clarity, and unwavering worth that were always inside you. Have you ever felt a constant heaviness around certain people, a tension that lingers even when nothing is being said? That heaviness is not imagined. It is your spirit reacting to a toxic presence, a presence that drains energy, breeds anxiety, and clouds your sense of peace. The human mind and body are finely tuned to detect what is harmful, even if your heart tries to rationalize it away. You may tell yourself that discomfort is normal, that conflict is unavoidable, or that love requires endurance. But the truth is, chronic emotional exhaustion is never normal, and it is never a requirement for meaningful connection. Each moment spent near someone who constantly drains you is a moment of life lost to fatigue, frustration, and diminished self-worth. Your energy is precious, your focus is limited, and your emotional capacity is finite. Allowing others to constantly deplete it is not sacrifice. It is silent sabotage. Imagine what it would feel like to release that weight, to breathe freely without the shadow of constant tension pressing on your chest. Imagine waking up each day without the invisible burden of anxiety caused by people who neither uplift nor respect you. That sense of freedom is not a distant dream. It is a reality that begins the moment you acknowledge the toll that toxic relationships take on your life. Boundaries are not just rules, they are declarations of self-worth, powerful statements that you will no longer tolerate what diminishes you. Every time you uphold a boundary, you are reclaiming your life from those who thrive on your exhaustion. The courage to remove yourself from draining relationships is not an act of anger or revenge. It is an act of preservation, an act of deep love for your own life. It is recognizing that your peace, clarity, and emotional well-being are non-negotiable. People who consistently leave you tired, anxious, or depleted are not teaching you resilience. They are teaching you submission. And submission, at the cost of your health and happiness, is never worth it. You were not meant to live under the constant weight of someone else's negativity, insecurity, or control. You were meant to thrive, to grow, to radiate energy that is vibrant and contagious. Walking away from what drains you is not failure. It is mastery over your own life. It is the conscious decision to prioritize your energy, your mental space, and your emotional freedom above all else. And when you do, the transformation is immediate. You notice clarity where confusion once ruled. You feel strength where anxiety once lingered. You rediscover passions, ambitions, and joys that were muted by the constant strain of toxicity. Life begins to expand in ways that were impossible while you were tethered to what drained you. And the relationships that remain are no longer sources of fatigue. They are mirrors of your vitality, reflecting back the respect, care, and balance that you now demand and deserve. Each step away from emotional exhaustion is a step into empowerment, into peace, and into a life that honors the sacredness of your time, energy, and spirit. You are not only freeing yourself, you are claiming the life you were always meant to live, filled with clarity, energy, and relationships that lift rather than weigh you down. Have you ever been around someone whose presence fills you with doubt, fear, or constant second guessing? That unease is not coincidental. It is a reflection of a relationship that undermines your confidence and sabotages your growth. When someone consistently makes you question your decisions, your worth, or your judgment, they are not challenging you. They are controlling you. This is not a minor inconvenience or an unavoidable quirk. It is a deep, corrosive influence that erodes the foundation of your self-belief. Every moment spent absorbing criticism, manipulation, or relentless negativity chips away at your inner strength, leaving you vulnerable to insecurities that were never yours to carry. You may convince yourself that enduring this is loyalty, love, or patience, but the truth is, tolerating this behavior is a form of silent self-betrayal. Your mind is wired to protect you, to seek alignment between your values and your environment. When that alignment is broken by someone who diminishes your confidence, your intuition signals danger, and ignoring it comes at a cost. You start to question yourself more than ever, not because you are weak, but because you are being conditioned to doubt. Imagine living in a life where your decisions are second-guessed, your instincts are undervalued, and your voice is perpetually questioned. That is not normal, and it is not acceptable. The reward of recognizing this truth is immense clarity, self-respect, and empowerment. You begin to see that strength is not in enduring endless doubt. It is in reclaiming your authority over your own life. Removing yourself from those who undermine your confidence is not about anger or revenge. It is about self-preservation, about creating an environment where your talents, choices, and instincts are honored rather than questioned. Every boundary you assert, every step you take away from someone who diminishes you, strengthens your sense of self. You start to trust your own judgment, to value your own voice, and to prioritize your own growth. The people who remain in your life after this process are those who elevate you, who celebrate your decisions, who mirror back the belief that you have in yourself. They do not control your choices, they support your vision. This is the essence of empowerment, surrounding yourself with those who reflect and reinforce your strength rather than erode it. Your life becomes a testament to courage, clarity, and resilience. You discover that confidence is not built in isolation, but flourishes in the right environment, one that respects your intellect, values your judgment, and nurtures your ambitions. Every day spent away from those who question your worth is a day spent cultivating inner peace, clarity, and unstoppable momentum. You no longer bend to appease others, nor do you carry the burden of their doubt. Instead, you move forward with conviction, knowing that your life is yours to command. Your choices are valid and your voice matters. The liberation you experience is profound because for the first time, your world aligns with your truth. And when your world aligns with your truth, you begin to attract relationships, opportunities, and experiences that honor your strength, reinforce your confidence, and accelerate your transformation. You are no longer a passenger in your own life. You are the captain, steering toward clarity, power, and fulfillment. Have you noticed how some relationships make you feel constantly on edge, as if you are walking on invisible shards of glass, never knowing when the next wound will come? That unease is not a sign that you are weak or overreacting. It is your soul sending you a clear message. The people who repeatedly provoke fear, anxiety, or discomfort in you are not adding value to your life. They are eroding your sense of safety. Every tense conversation, every microaggression, every moment of unpredictability trains your mind to anticipate harm instead of peace. Your energy becomes fragmented, your focus scattered, and your ability to embrace joy weakened. This is not a trivial cost. It is a profound theft of your potential. You are not designed to live in constant vigilance. Life is meant to be expansive, courageous, and full of possibility, yet chronic tension binds your spirit and limits your capacity to thrive. Recognizing the toxicity of fear-based relationships is the first act of liberation. It is the moment you acknowledge that peace is not optional. It is essential. You deserve to move through life feeling grounded, confident, and free from the relentless tension that others impose upon you. The power of walking away from fear-inducing relationships is transformative. It is not only about avoiding pain, it is about reclaiming the mental and emotional space necessary to grow, innovate, and embrace your full potential. When you let go of people who make you fear your own life, you open a door to clarity, calm, and self-trust. Boundaries become your shield, not a weapon. Each decision to distance yourself reinforces the truth that your well-being is non-negotiable. This act of courage is not selfish, it is strategic. It allows you to cultivate relationships, environments, and opportunities that nourish rather than drain. Imagine what it would feel like to wake each day without that invisible weight pressing on your chest, without the lingering anxiety that erodes your creativity, productivity, and happiness. Imagine the mental clarity, emotional stability, and renewed focus that come when you no longer invest energy in people who thrive on your discomfort. That freedom is within reach the moment you decide that fear should never dictate your connections. People who consistently provoke unease, control, or intimidation are not allies. They are obstacles to your evolution. Removing them is not about rejection, it is about preservation, about creating a life where you can move boldly and confidently toward your aspirations. And as you step away from these relationships, you begin to notice a profound shift. Your thoughts are clearer, your emotions more stable, and your spirit lighter. You no longer expend precious energy anticipating conflict or mitigating fear. Instead, you channel that energy into growth, ambition, and the pursuit of your dreams. The liberation that comes from leaving fear behind is profound, because it reminds you that life is too short to remain shackled by anxiety, manipulation, or constant tension. You were meant to walk through life with strength, courage, and unshakable peace. Every moment spent free from fear-based relationships is a declaration of self-respect, an affirmation that your well-being is paramount, and a bold step toward the life you were always meant to claim. Have you ever felt the weight of constant judgment from someone who should have been your supporter, someone whose words cut deeper than any stranger's could? That judgment is not love, and it is not constructive. It is a form of control, a way to keep you small, compliant, and insecure. Every cutting remark, every criticism disguised as advice slowly chips away at your confidence, leaving you unsure of your value and hesitant to trust your own instincts. You might rationalize it, telling yourself that they only want the best for you or that criticism builds character. But character is built through challenge, not through relentless belittlement. True growth comes from encouragement, from honest but respectful feedback, from guidance that uplifts rather than undermines. When someone constantly judges you, they are not fostering your growth, they are feeding their own need for power over your life. This kind of relationship is corrosive because it creates a chronic state of self-doubt. You begin to question every choice, every decision, and even your deepest desires. You may start to censor yourself, shrink your ambitions, and mute your voice to avoid criticism. And as your confidence diminishes, so does your potential. Every day spent under this shadow is a day of untapped possibilities slipping through your fingers. But here is the truth that can transform everything. You are not obligated to endure constant judgment, no matter how close the person is. Your self-worth is not defined by someone else's opinions, and your future should never be held hostage by their negativity. Walking away, or at the very least creating firm boundaries, is not an act of rebellion. It is an act of self-preservation, an acknowledgement that your life and your energy are too valuable to be compromised. Imagine the freedom of living without the weight of incessant judgment, of making decisions rooted in your values rather than fear of criticism. Picture the confidence you would feel as your intuition guides you, unclouded by the opinions of someone who undermines your worth. The liberation from toxic judgment transforms not just your relationships, it transforms your life. Every boundary you set, every step you take away from harmful critique is a declaration that your voice matters, that your dreams matter, and that your growth is sacred. The people who remain after this process are those who see you, hear you, and celebrate you. They are not invested in diminishing you. They are invested in helping you thrive. Your mind becomes clear, your energy focused, and your potential limitless. You begin to trust yourself again, to speak freely, to act boldly, and to pursue ambitions that were once muted under the weight of criticism. Life expands when judgment no longer controls it. You realize that the courage to reject toxic judgment is the courage to honor yourself, to respect your own journey, and to claim the freedom you deserve. Every choice made without fear, every step taken toward your growth, strengthens your spirit and amplifies your resilience. And as you continue to distance yourself from those who judge and diminish, you create a life that reflects your true potential, where peace, confidence, and empowerment are not occasional luxuries, but the foundation of every day. Have you ever felt invisible in a room full of people who are supposed to care about you? To be unseen, dismissed, or ignored by those you trust is a pain that chips away at the foundation of your identity. When someone consistently disregards your thoughts, feelings, or presence, it is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of their inability or unwillingness to value you. Every ignored message, every overlooked opinion, every time you feel unseen sends a subtle but powerful message to your subconscious that your voice does not matter. Over time, this erodes your confidence, your self-esteem, and your ability to assert yourself in the world. You start to question whether your needs, desires, and emotions are legitimate. And you may even begin to doubt your right to occupy space and demand respect. But here is the truth: being invisible in someone's life is not something you have to accept. Your presence is a gift, and you deserve to be recognized, respected, and celebrated. You were not designed to fade into the background or shrink your existence to accommodate someone else's indifference. Choosing to distance yourself from people who make you feel invisible is not rejection, it is affirmation. It is an act of courage that says, I see my worth, and I will not surrender it for the sake of comfort or obligation. When you step away from invisibility, you reclaim your power. You create room for relationships that honor your voice, validate your presence, and amplify your potential. Imagine what it would feel like to surround yourself with people who actively see you, who listen deeply, and who recognize your contributions without hesitation. That acknowledgement is not mere flattery, it is fuel for your growth, confidence, and emotional resilience. Being seen allows you to trust your instincts, express yourself authentically, and pursue your goals with clarity and courage. Each moment you assert your presence, each decision to leave invisibility behind, is a step toward a life where your energy is invested in spaces and people that elevate you rather than diminish you. The liberation that comes from being seen is profound. You begin to notice a lightness in your mind, a clarity in your emotions, and a renewed strength in your spirit. You are no longer burdened by the weight of being overlooked, dismissed, or undervalued. Instead, you stand firmly in your truth, confident in your value, and committed to creating a life that reflects your worth. Those who truly matter will celebrate your presence, engage with your thoughts, and support your ambitions. Your life becomes an ecosystem of recognition, mutual respect, and empowerment. Every act of self-respect, every step away from invisibility, strengthens your boundaries, sharpens your focus, and empowers you to demand the acknowledgement you deserve. And as you continue to remove yourself from those who fail to see you, your world transforms. You experience the profound clarity of knowing that your energy is invested wisely, that your voice carries weight, and that your life is fully aligned with your values. Being seen is not a privilege, it is your right, and claiming it is one of the most transformative acts of courage you can take. Your life begins to vibrate with authenticity, confidence, and unstoppable momentum, because finally you are no longer invisible. Have you ever felt drained after spending time with someone, as if your energy was siphoned away without permission? This exhaustion is not normal, and it is not your fault. Some relationships act as emotional drains, leaving you depleted, anxious, and unable to fully engage with your own life. Every conversation that leaves you feeling small, every interaction that saps your joy, chips away at your vitality. You may find yourself constantly tired, emotionally flat, or stuck in a cycle of self-doubt and frustration. These are not signs of weakness. They are signals from your mind and body warning you that this connection is toxic. Recognizing this is not easy because it often involves people who are close to you, people whose presence you've normalized despite the toll they take. But acknowledging the truth is the first act of empowerment. You deserve relationships that energize you, not ones that drain you. People who lift you up, inspire you, and support your growth exist, but you cannot make room for them while you allow others to consume your energy. Emotional energy is precious. It fuels your creativity, your courage, and your ability to pursue your dreams. When it is constantly drained by toxic interactions, your potential remains trapped, unexpressed, and frustrated. Imagine reclaiming that energy, feeling a spark in your mind and heart that propels you forward instead of holding you back. The choice to walk away from draining relationships is not selfish. It is necessary. It is a declaration that your emotional well-being matters, that your life matters, and that your ambitions deserve a foundation of strength and clarity. Each time you remove yourself from emotional depletion, you give yourself permission to flourish. You begin to notice the subtle joys of life, the clarity in your thoughts, and the freedom to make decisions unburdened by someone else's constant demands or negativity. Energy once wasted on coping with toxicity now becomes fuel for self-discovery, growth, and resilience. You start to invest your time and heart into people who match your energy, who reciprocate your effort, and who respect your boundaries. Life begins to feel lighter, more vibrant, and full of possibility. The freedom from draining relationships is transformative because it restores your sense of control over your life. You realize that your energy is not an endless resource to be spent on those who do not value it. Instead, it is a sacred currency to be invested in connections that elevate, inspire, and empower you. Every boundary you enforce, every step you take away from emotional drain, strengthens your resilience and amplifies your confidence. You begin to move through the world with purpose and clarity, no longer tethered to the weight of relationships that dim your light. The liberation that comes from protecting your emotional energy is profound. It allows you to reclaim your focus, your joy, and your power. And as you continue to distance yourself from those who drain your spirit, you create a life filled with vitality, intentionality, and unstoppable momentum. Your energy becomes your greatest asset, fueling every pursuit, every connection, and every ambition with strength and courage. The decision to protect yourself transforms not only your relationships, but the very trajectory of your life. Have you ever felt the subtle weight of fear whenever you consider speaking your truth? It's a quiet tension that sits in your chest, telling you to stay small, to avoid conflict, to swallow your needs for the sake of keeping the peace. But this fear is not a guide, it is a warning sign. When a relationship makes you afraid to express yourself, when honesty feels like a risk instead of a natural act, it is a sign that the connection is unhealthy. Fear should never dictate your worth, your voice, or your choices. Every time you silence yourself to prevent discomfort, you chip away at your own power. You begin to believe that your thoughts, feelings, and desires are negotiable, disposable, or irrelevant. This is not how life is meant to be lived. You were designed to speak freely, to assert boundaries, and to express your truth without hesitation or shame. When a relationship consistently triggers fear, it undermines your confidence, erodes your self-respect, and stunts your personal growth. It transforms your mind into a battlefield where you constantly weigh potential consequences instead of embracing your authenticity. Imagine the liberation of walking into a conversation with clarity, calm, and courage, knowing that your truth is valid, respected, and safe to express. That freedom is possible, but only when you stop investing in relationships that instill fear. Ending connections that suppress your voice is not cruelty. It is preservation. It is the conscious choice to protect your mental and emotional integrity, to honor the person you are becoming. When you release relationships built on fear, you create space for connections that nurture honesty, respect, and courage. People who encourage you to speak, who listen without judgment, and who value your perspective allow you to grow exponentially. Your thoughts are no longer trapped behind the walls of caution or anxiety. Your words regain their weight, your ideas regain their power, and your confidence becomes unshakable. Living free from the influence of fear in relationships ignites a profound transformation. You start to notice a clarity of mind, a sense of purpose, and an emotional resilience that cannot be shaken. Fear loses its control because you are no longer complicit in its demand for silence or submission. Each decision to step away from relationships that provoke fear strengthens your self-trust and sharpens your instincts. You begin to navigate life with a sense of empowerment, knowing that your voice is a force, your opinions are valid, and your presence is significant. As you continue to distance yourself from those who trigger fear, your world shifts. Interactions become opportunities for growth, connection, and mutual respect rather than arenas of tension and self-doubt. The courage to speak your truth without hesitation becomes a defining feature of your life, radiating confidence and attracting people who honor your authenticity. Fear is no longer a chain, it becomes a compass, guiding you toward relationships that support, empower, and inspire you. And in that space of fearless expression, you find not only freedom, but the boundless potential to live fully, passionately, and unapologetically as yourself. Have you noticed how some relationships leave you feeling invisible, as if your presence, your needs, and your dreams don't matter at all? It is a quiet erosion that can happen slowly, until one day you realize you no longer recognize yourself in the reflection of those connections. When people disregard your feelings, belittle your accomplishments, or dismiss your voice, it is a signal, a glaring red flag that the bond is no longer nurturing but corrosive. Your self-worth is not negotiable. It is not something to be diluted for the comfort of others or compromised to maintain appearances. Every time someone invalidates your emotions or minimizes your experience, they are teaching you a lesson you never asked to learn, that your feelings are unimportant. This is a toxic cycle that must be broken. You deserve relationships that see you, that value your presence, and that honor your experiences. You deserve to be heard, acknowledged, and celebrated, not questioned or silenced. When a relationship systematically makes you feel invisible, it robs you of joy, diminishes your confidence, and slowly erodes your identity. You begin to doubt yourself, question your worth, and internalize a sense of inadequacy. The weight of invisibility is heavy. It clouds your mind, constrains your spirit, and limits your potential. But liberation is possible. Choosing to step away from those who ignore or dismiss you is not a betrayal. It is an act of radical self-respect. It is a declaration that your presence is powerful, your feelings are valid, and your life is worthy of connections that uplift rather than suppress. Imagine a life where your emotions are honored, where your achievements are celebrated, and where your voice resonates without fear of dismissal. That life is waiting for you, but you cannot reach it while remaining tethered to those who make you feel invisible. Removing yourself from such relationships allows you to reclaim your space, your energy, and your identity. You begin to feel the subtle shift almost immediately. Your thoughts grow clearer, your heart feels lighter, and your spirit gains momentum. Each interaction becomes an opportunity to engage fully, authentically, and without fear of being overlooked. Your confidence rebuilds itself, stronger and more resilient than ever, because it is no longer constantly tested by neglect or disregard. As you distance yourself from invisibility, you create a gravitational pull that attracts people who see you, value you, and inspire you to flourish. Your life becomes a reflection of your worth, a canvas on which your passions, dreams, and ambitions can finally take shape. You realize that being seen is not a luxury. It is a necessity for growth, happiness, and fulfillment. And as you continue to prioritize relationships that honor your presence, you experience a profound shift. The world begins to feel brighter, your purpose sharper, and your life richer with connections that empower, respect, and celebrate the person you are. Stepping into this reality requires courage, but the reward is extraordinary. You are no longer invisible. You are recognized, valued, and free to live fully, unapologetically, and with unstoppable energy that reflects the depth of your true self. Have you ever noticed how some relationships drain you completely, leaving your energy, your motivation, and your joy scattered and depleted? It's a subtle form of sabotage that often goes unnoticed until it has taken a deep hold. People who constantly demand your time, your attention, or your emotional labor without reciprocity are not allies, they are drains. Every conversation, every interaction feels heavy, leaving you smaller than before, exhausted, and questioning your own capacity. This is not love, friendship, or family. It is depletion masquerading as connection. Your energy is sacred. It fuels your dreams, your creativity, and your ability to live fully. When someone repeatedly drains it without care or balance, They are stealing the very force that powers your life. Remaining in these connections is not loyalty, it is self-betrayal. You were not designed to exist in a state of constant exhaustion or emotional bankruptcy. You deserve relationships that nourish, energize, and uplift you. Every healthy bond should make you feel lighter, stronger, and more capable. Not worn down, anxious, or burdened. The awareness of this truth is the first step toward transformation. You have the power to reclaim your energy and set boundaries that protect your spirit. Imagine a life where interactions are reciprocal, where your time and emotions are valued, and where every connection leaves you stronger rather than weaker. This is not a dream, it is attainable once you recognize and remove the people who consistently drain you. Letting go is not an act of abandonment, it is a courageous choice to honor your well-being and preserve the life force that drives your purpose. As you begin to release these draining relationships, you will notice an immediate shift. Your mind clears, your focus sharpens, and your motivation surges. The energy that was once consumed by others now returns to you, fueling your ambitions, your passions, and your ability to create. You become more resilient, more present, and more in tune with your own needs and desires. Draining relationships are obstacles to the life you are meant to lead, but stepping away from them transforms them to lessons of awareness, strength, and empowerment. You learn to recognize subtle patterns of depletion and to act before they take root. Your boundaries become inviolable, your energy protected, and your life aligned with people who respect, encourage, and inspire you. The liberation that comes from this shift is profound. You no longer exist in a cycle of exhaustion and compromise. You reclaim the power that is rightfully yours. Every action, every decision, and every interaction becomes a deliberate choice that strengthens your spirit rather than diminishes it. And as you continue to prioritize relationships that energize and support you, your life expands into a space of abundance, vitality, and unstoppable momentum. You begin to radiate a presence that attracts people who honor your energy and reciprocate your investment. In this space, your potential is limitless. You are no longer a vessel drained by others' demands. You are a force of vitality, resilience, and purpose, moving boldly toward the life you were meant to create. Have you ever felt a persistent tension, a gnawing discomfort, or a subtle anxiety whenever certain people are around? That unease is not imagined. It is your mind and body signaling that something in this connection is fundamentally misaligned with your well-being. Healthy relationships do not leave you walking on eggshells, questioning every word, anticipating criticism, or suppressing your own truth. When fear, dread, or constant stress becomes a regular part of your interactions, it is not normal. It is a warning. Ignoring this warning is like ignoring a storm brewing at sea. It does not dissipate on its own. It grows until it threatens your emotional stability, your sense of self, and your inner peace. Your intuition knows the truth long before your mind is willing to acknowledge it. That quiet voice urging caution is the compass pointing toward freedom, toward boundaries, and toward liberation from toxicity. Listening to it is not selfish, it is essential. Every second spent in an environment that triggers fear, self-doubt, or stress is a second stolen from the life you were meant to live fully and courageously. The courage to face this discomfort, to acknowledge it openly, and to act decisively is the same courage that fuels transformation, resilience, and personal growth. When you begin to honor that discomfort, you begin to reclaim control over your emotional landscape. You start to see clearly the difference between relationships that nurture and relationships that threaten. And with that clarity comes power. The power to choose who stays in your life and who does not. The people who incite fear, manipulate emotions, or induce anxiety are not anchors. They are chains. They hold you back from joy, from clarity, from the freedom to express your true self. Breaking these chains is not an act of cruelty. It is an act of self-respect, self-preservation, and profound courage. You owe it to yourself to step away from relationships that compromise your peace for the sake of your mental clarity, emotional health, and life trajectory. As you take this step, something remarkable happens. The weight that is pressed on your shoulders begins to lift. Your mind feels lighter, your focus sharper, and your heart begins to beat in rhythm with your own truth rather than with someone else's chaos. You start to notice opportunities that were invisible before, the ideas, the connections, and the experiences that align with who you truly are. The freedom gained from releasing fear-driven relationships amplifies every aspect of your life. Your energy flows more freely, your decisions are more intentional, and your confidence grows because it is rooted in authenticity rather than compromise. You begin to cultivate relationships that encourage, challenge, and inspire you to grow without fear. Each interaction becomes a source of support rather than stress, a place of learning rather than manipulation. And in this space, your life transforms. The anxiety, tension, and fear that once defined your connections are replaced by clarity, courage, and an unshakable sense of self. You are no longer tethered to relationships that diminish you. You are empowered to step boldly into connections that elevate, nourish, and reflect the best of who you are. Your inner peace becomes your foundation, and from it, everything you dream of creating becomes possible. Have you noticed how some people in your life drain your energy, leaving you exhausted, empty, and questioning your worth? This is not just a feeling, it is a signal that your boundaries are being crossed, that your time and energy are being siphoned away by those who do not respect or value you. Every interaction with these people chips away at your emotional resilience, eroding the confidence and vitality you need to thrive. You might tell yourself it is loyalty, or that love requires sacrifice, but true connection does not consume you. It amplifies your life, not diminishes it. When you consistently feel depleted after being around someone, it is a clear sign that this relationship is misaligned with your well-being. It is a reflection of imbalance, where giving is met with taking, where support is one-sided, and where your emotional currency is spent without reciprocity. Imagine what life could be if your energy was no longer drained by these toxic connections. Imagine waking up each day feeling light, empowered, and free to invest your heart and mind where it matters most. The first step is acknowledging the truth, even when it is uncomfortable. Denial only prolongs the cycle of exhaustion and frustration. Accepting that some relationships are harmful is not betrayal. It is clarity. It is an act of courage that honors your needs and preserves your emotional integrity. When you begin to prioritize your energy, you begin to recognize that it is finite and every ounce matters. You start to see that people who respect your time, listen without judgment, and encourage your growth are the ones who deserve your investment. The relationships that drain you, that leave you feeling small, anxious, or undervalued, are not worth your sacrifice. Letting go of them is not weakness, it is strength. It is a declaration that you value yourself enough to protect your energy, your mental health, and your life path. As you take this bold step, you create space for clarity, creativity, and meaningful connections to enter. You begin to operate from a place of abundance rather than scarcity, understanding that your worth is not defined by how much you give to those who take without care. Each moment of liberation reinforces your courage and deepens your sense of self. You start to notice the subtle ways your life transforms, your focus sharpens, your mood stabilizes, your ambitions feel reachable, and your confidence grows. You attract people who elevate, not drain, who inspire, not manipulate. Every choice to step away from a draining relationship is a choice to reclaim your life. Your energy, once stolen, is now directed toward growth, toward joy, toward the creation of a life that aligns with your highest potential. And as this clarity takes root, you begin to understand that protecting your energy is not selfish. It is essential. It is the foundation for every success, every dream, and every deep connection that you are capable of cultivating. By removing the drains, you make room for abundance, joy, and profound transformation. You become the guardian of your own life, the architect of your peace, and the author of your own story. The power to choose where your energy flows is the power to transform every aspect of your existence. And that choice begins the moment you refuse to let anyone dim your light. Have you ever felt a constant undercurrent of fear, anxiety, or unease whenever you interact with someone, even if everything seems fine on the surface? That feeling is your intuition speaking, your inner compass warning you that something is deeply misaligned. Too often, we ignore these signals because we fear conflict, rejection, or the loss of connection. But suppressing this awareness comes at a cost far greater than discomfort. It erodes your confidence, steals your peace, and keeps you trapped in cycles that diminish your potential. Emotional manipulation, control, and subtle hostility are not always obvious, but they leave invisible scars that shape how you see yourself, how you respond to others, and how freely you can pursue your dreams. The people who repeatedly make you feel small, guilty, or incapable are not helping you grow. They are anchoring you in limitation, and no amount of loyalty or obligation can justify this sacrifice of self. When you begin to notice these patterns, it is a call to awaken to your own power. It is an invitation to step out of fear and into clarity. True courage is not confrontation for its own sake, nor is it enduring pain silently. It is recognizing the toxicity, acknowledging the damage, and taking decisive steps to protect your mind, your heart, and your future. This awareness is not selfishness, it is self-preservation, and it is the only way to create space for relationships that nourish, inspire, and elevate. Imagine for a moment how life would feel if every interaction brought encouragement, support, and joy, rather than tension, doubt, and stress. The freedom to engage with people without fear or hesitation transforms the way you experience every moment. Your focus becomes sharper, your creativity flows, and your emotional resilience grows exponentially. Toxic relationships are not merely uncomfortable. They are invisible barriers that prevent you from becoming your highest self. Each time you hesitate to walk away because of guilt, obligation, or tradition, you reinforce those barriers and signal to yourself that your needs are less important than maintaining appearances. But the truth is, honoring your boundaries is one of the most profound acts of integrity you can practice. It is an act that cultivates self-respect, strengthens your identity, and attracts relationships that mirror the care, respect, and love you deserve. Recognizing the subtle erosion caused by unhealthy dynamics allows you to reclaim your mental space and emotional freedom.